What's up? So today this is my first time I'm going live, okay? So I'm going to upload these notes of Pip and the Convict, and for those who don't who have missed out the explanation can go check my previous video, okay? And I'll read out the questions to you, and these are the answers made by me. So I'm going to explain the difficult question answers as well, and you can take notes of it accordingly, okay? Let me start with the answer the following questions, okay? First question: what do we know about Pip's family? For those people who have read this chapter will know about the Pip's family, and I would suggest all of you that you must read the chapter twice, thrice for your better understanding on that subject matter. Because once you start reading it, you can frame your own question and answers, and that's how you get better in English speaking and your expression as well. As you read, you get a new dimension every time you read. Okay, so let me start without wasting a second. What do we know about Pip's family? Pip had lost his parents when he was a baby, and he had been brought up by his older sister. His sister's husband was Joe Gargree, a blacksmith. Joe was a dear fellow, kind to little Pip. Mrs. Joe, or Pip's sister, however, had a continual habit of scolding. Even if he loved Pip, she was bad-tempered. She treated Joe and Pip alike, and both of them were equally afraid of her. And now there's one thing, a point to be noted, that whatever features of Joe Gargree has been given over here, you have to mention it. You have to mention these things verbatim, like you give out the definitions, okay? Second question. Describe the man Pip met at the churchyard on the day before Christmas. What did the man want? The man Pip met at the churchyard on the day before Christmas was fearful looking. He was dressed in grey clothes with a great iron band riveted on his leg. What is the meaning of riveted over here? Like, that riveted means it's wrapped around, like the watch that I'm wearing right now. So it is just wrapped around, riveted around his leg, not around his hand, okay? And it was just broken. He somehow managed to escape from there. So it was just broken, riveted on his leg. And his shoes were torn, and he wore a ragged, dirty handkerchief. Now, what is the meaning of ragged? So in Hindi we call jiska rang uda hua hai. So for the English speakers, I can tell the cloth of which the color has been faded out. Okay, ragged, dirty handkerchief around his leg. He was around his neck. Sorry, not leg, it's neck. He was drenched and caked with mud. So caked with mud is a phrase you can use, right? Caked with mud. And limped and shivered as he walked. He had a rough voice. He wanted Pip to come back the next morning with a sharp file and something to eat. He also wanted Pip to keep it a secret. Right? Question 3. When did Pip learn about the man's identity? How? He did learn about the man's identity. Few months later, he came across another man in his house who came as a guest in search of Pip. He was a mysterious looking personality. He was a mysterious looking person or a personality who kept one eye shut all the time as he was taking aim with a gun. Now, once you take aim with a gun, you keep one eye shut, right? So he was keeping it that way, right? He was kind of squeezing his eye. So he wasn't really keeping it shut like that. He was just squeezing his eye, just like you aim with the gun, okay? When he heard Pip's name, he looked at him with a curious wink. Now, many of you will be confused here. Even I got confused the first time I read this with a curious wink. Now, how can this man wink if one of his eye is closed, right? If he winks, it will be like he's just blinking, okay? So what did he do was he was just looking down. When he heard Pip's name, he was like, so he was just giving that expression. He wasn't really winking at the person. He was just looking at him, because as he kept one eye shut all the time, so that looked like a wink exactly. He took out the very file that he had given to the convict a few months ago. He also gave Pip a shilling wrapped in a piece of paper. So shilling is a former currency of Britain, okay? Shilling, just like rupees and euro and dollars, shilling is also a currency. It was, I think, an old currency. I don't know whether this works there, okay? Another thing, I know many of those who haven't seen my previous video might not be able to understand that much. So please watch that previous video after this live session is over. okay, if you are attending it right now. That's how the Pip realized that the convict was taking his means to repay him. So this is just the continuation of the question answers. What did Pip, this is the fourth question. What did Pip do at the dawn of Christmas Day? Why? At the dawn, during the Christmas Eve, Pip crept downstairs and crept down to take some bread, cheese and a meat from the pantry. Then he got a file from the forge and ran through the foggy morning to the marshes. Okay, so he just ran through the foggy morning. This all is understood. Now let's go to the next question. Who was the other man in the churchyard? What happened to him? The other man in the churchyard was another convict, which resembled the previous one. The only difference was a bruise on his cheek, which when was seen by Pip, he ran away. He means that man ran away, not Pip. Pip did not run away anywhere. When he saw that man with the bruise on his cheek, bruise matlab it's a kind of a ghav in Hindi you call. It's a kind of a burn when you burn on the cheek, which is a dark patch. Okay, once your skin is burnt, you get that dark patch here. So that's what he saw, and that was the differentiating mark between the two convicts. Now obviously it is morning time and it's not clearly seen, right? It's not like they're twins. It's just that it was dawn, it was the morning time, and that's the reason, you know, he wasn't able to differentiate between those two, but that bruise was so prominent, he came to know. So as soon as he saw the bruise on his cheek, the man got scared. Okay, that was coincidental. So the man got scared and he ran away. When Pip told the first convict about his experience on his way, he flew in a rage. So that man became very angry once Pip told him about that other man. Later, we also see that the soldiers find them fighting with one another, which shows how much both of them hated each other. So that showed the animosity between the two people. Alright, read the last paragraph from the text. What does it tell you about Mrs. Joe and Mrs. Joe and the convict? The last paragraph is precise, yet holds a lot of meaning. We come to know how rude and strict Mrs. Joe was as she took away the prize from Pip and was quite curious about it. Now obviously she is a strict person and she is the guardian of Pip, so she wouldn't want him to keep that money by himself. He could, you know, right, how these authoritative people are. So she just took it away from him for her use. She did not really mean to give that to Pip. Okay, so that was something which was very rude because it was his prize money. You cannot take it away. Okay, because Pip was grown, he was a big boy. He wasn't that small. I mean, he wasn't that big, but he was like 7-8 years, so he could obviously keep that money to himself. The convict remembered Pip and was taking his means, that's a better word, taking his means to repay him. He gave Pip a shilling, former British unit currency, a shilling wrapped in a piece of paper as a token of thanks. I personally feel that the convict was in reality a good person. It's only because of his adverse situation that he murdered or committed a crime. Okay? RTCs. Now what is RTC here? This is the short form to reference to context. So now I repeatedly keep on saying that to my students that you should write the author name and the chapter name. Not for everybody, but for some people this happens, right? For some schools, some schools they tell to write the chapter name, author name, because that is true for my school as well. Okay, so whosoever is my school and watching me right now, you can write that down, bros. Okay, so now the first question is, for whom was the evening miserable? Answer is, this extract is taken from chapter Pip and the Convict, adopted from the book Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. So this is the format in which you write. Now previous class we used to write chapter equals to the name, author equals to the author name, right? But now this time we do that in the sentence form, and those who do not have this rule but still writing that will create a good impression on your examiners. Okay, when the examiner will check, it will be very clear to him or her that this extract is taken from that person, that place, and that so and so place, that gives more clarity. So the answer, the evening was a miserable one for little Pip, as he had been threatened by the convict when he was at the churchyard. Why was it miserable for him? He met a fearful convict who had grabbed him and made him promise to return the next morning with some food to eat and a sharp file. File does not mean here that file in which you carry paper. It is like a knife. It's a sharp object used for cutting things. Pip had been terrified by the man and was also he warned him about he also worried about how to get the things from him. What unusual thing did he do that evening? Pip thought that in case he was not able to get into his sister's pantry. Now, why is he referring to sister's pantry? Because that aunt of his is actually his elder sister, the Mrs. Joe is his elder sister. And he does not have parents. Both of them are orphans, and the sister is big enough to take care of her. And the sister is big enough and married, so she can take care of of Pip as a guardian. So sister's pantry, so sister's kitchen, so basically his guardian's kitchen. He should save his own supper for the man, so he slipped it down his trouser leg. Why am I explaining you every question and answers? That's because of better clarity, so that you get that better clarity, because some people just simply write the notes out of the chapter, they get the notes from the chapter, and they don't really understand what is going on in the story. So this is very important. I am re-emphasizing this thing again and again, time and again, umpteen number of times, that you must read the chapter and you must understand. And if you ever have any doubt, don't fear to approach me. You can come to the comment section. You can mail me also on my Gmail ID, okay, and you can tell me what is your problem, and I'll try to solve it within 24 hours itself, right? Next question. When Pip spoke of the bruised cheek, this man flew into a rage. Which two men are being referred to here? This is the second RTC, right? So this extract in whatever format I gave you before. Okay, does that text tell us why this man hated the other convict so much? Right. No, the text only tells us that the first convict hated the other one, not the reason behind it. So you can write that much. That depends on the marks, 1 mark question, 2 lines. 2 mark question, 4 lines. 3 mark question, 6, 7 lines. I would prefer 8 lines and so on. Okay. Write 2 sentences more than the marks, so it will give you extra. This is my tip. I do that in the exams, okay? Okay, what did his rage drive him to do? The first convict hated the other one when he heard about him from Pip. He furiously worked to break his chain, so he was working madly at the iron. If you have read the chapter, you know what does that mean. Later, he tracked down the other convict and got into a fight with him. They were discovered by the soldiers fighting. The first convict could have run away, but he did not. He chose to drag the other man into captivity. Means he was trying to control that man, he was trying to hit that man, thrash that man, due to some reasons which is not known to us in this chapter. Even though it meant that he himself had to go back to the prison. Common sense, right? Okay, third. This is the third RTC. Just as she went to get the pie, Pip got up from the table to run away. But as he opened the door, he ran straight into a file of soldiers. So now there's one interesting thing. File of soldiers and a sharp file. These are the two differences you must know. Sharp file is something like a knife or a sharp object which you use to cut things. And a file of soldiers is a collective noun. So here file is being referred to a collective noun, a group of soldiers, file of soldiers coming. So basically a group of soldiers, in collective noun we call it file of soldiers, okay, in a refined English. So you really need to know these kind of words for a better marks in literature. I know how difficult the correction is these days in literature in English. For my school we have a very tough marking, and I got good marks this time actually. I got 73 on 80. So yeah, whatever. Now let's go back, jokes apart. Why did Pip try to run away? Pip tried to run away as he knew that if his sister found at that moment the meat pie was gone and it was because of Pip, he would get a big scolding and perhaps even a thrashing. Hence, he decided to make a run for it. He decided to run away from there, at least for that time, till the time, the Mrs. Joe just, her anger, her fury just calms down. Okay. Next, why had the soldiers come to Pip's house? The soldiers had come to Pip's house to help them repair a broken handcuff as they were in a search of the marshes for the convicts. In the flurry of their arrival, everybody forgot about the meat pie and Pip was saved for the time being. Harsh. That was like a narrow escape, you call it, narrow escape from an accident. Yeah. Next question. Where and how did the soldiers find the convict in the marshes? It was sunset when the party entered the marshes. Party means that group. Party is again a collective noun. You must know these terms. Okay, these terms are very important, let me tell you. And try reading more and more books, right? Entered the marshes and the searchers opened into a wide lane. All of a sudden, a confused shouting of a person was heard from a distance. The soldiers poking their guns. Poking means, for example, this highlighter is a gun. Okay, you just cock this gun means you just open this thing, right? You just set it out so that it is ready to be shot. Okay, boys know that well. Okay, even girls know it. Jokes apart. Yeah, I do that a lot. I do that in my time pass. I do with the highlighter and all like that. Okay. Followed the noise only to see. Okay, cocking their guns, they went and followed the noise only to see the two convicts fighting fiercely in it. The one with the bruised cheek and the other whom Pip had helped. Okay. Fourth. This is the fourth reference to context. Immediately, Pip knew that the man was a friend of the convict he had aided. First question. Which man? So I'm not giving you the format again and again that this extract is taken from that and that is taken from here. Okay, that you have to write on your own based on your needs. Which man has been referred to here? The man who came to Pip's house, who kept one eye shut all the time, is being referred to here in this extract. Or you could even say the stranger who came and met, Joe Gargry in the inn. Okay, inn, that was the place. Inn is a kind of a place where you give your mails. It's a very old place. I mean, now it's no more into enforcement. You don't have inns anymore. It's very rare these days. It's a place where you used to drop your mails. It was a kind of mailbox cum cafeteria where people used to sit. Second, how did Pip know that he was the convict's friend? So now this is a question. Let us see the answer. As soon as the man saw and heard Pip's name, he looked at him with a curious wink and took out the very file Pip had stolen from the forge to help the convict and stirred his drink. Now he knew who the man was and why he had come. Okay, so he just stirred the drink in front of Pip to just let him know that, okay, I'm not a stranger to you, I know you. And I am the convict's friend, because at that time, see, Joe Gargry, that friend of his, Mrs. Joe's husband and the friend and well-wisher of his did not know about it. So he just, because the convict had threatened him, see, this is the clarity, I'm trying to clear it out to you, that he had just asked him to keep it in secrecy. So he just was trying to sign him. So probably the other guy, that is Joe, Mr. Joe, did not understand the sign. Only Pip could understand it. The next question, what did the man give Pip? Why? The man gave Pip a shilling wrapped in a piece of paper as a token of thanks from the convict to help him. It felt like the convict was it felt like that was the convict's way of thanking him, and he was making his means to he was taking his means to repay Pip. Think and answer. So now in think and answer, only 2 think and answers I have in my textbook. You could make your own as well. Right. So I'll just read it out quickly to you. This is just the synopsis of the chapter. Okay. And then I'll finish up. I know you guys are very tired and you want to write the notes down. Okay. I can understand. I can sympathize with you guys, the amount of notes you get. Think and answer. Describe and compare Pip's relationship with Joe Gargry and Mrs. Joe. As an orphan, Pip was brought up by his older sister named Mrs. Joe. She was tall and bony with a continual habit of scolding. She might have loved Pip in her way, but in a very rude and a cross-grained one. She treated Mr. Joe and Pip the same. Both of them were equally afraid of her. On the other hand, Joe, who was more like Pip's friend, was mild, honest, good-natured, easygoing, foolish, and yet a Hercules for strength. Whenever Pip would come home after his work, he would look at Joe's fingers. If he crossed them, then it was a signal that Mrs. Joe was furious and Pip was to be on a lookout for himself, and vice versa. So now, before I go to the second thing and answer, I'd like to tell you, start designing your character sketches, okay, for the literature chapter. Now, what are character sketches? It's not the literal sketching of the character. You simply write the name on top, like you write the Joe Gargary. Just do the heading, character sketch of Pip and the Convict chapter. First one, Joe Gargary, and then you write the main things about him. Like here it is written, Joe was mild, honest, good-natured, easygoing, foolish, and yet Hercules for strength. So that thing should be written there. It's the quality of that character. Now, same way you write the quality of Pip. So you can, whatever you understood, you can say that Pip was innocent, and you have to give a meaning to it, like Joe was so and so, and because he always used to take the side of Pip and always used to support him. But then on the other hand, see, like excuse me, like the Pip, okay, Pip ka character sketch I'm talking about. So here let's say, he is you're just describing his character sketch there. So for example, I'm just saying that he was very innocent, okay, because he just came into the convict's words easily. He was just convinced by the convict's threat. He got scared of the convict's threat and he ran home and obeyed him. Okay, he did not disclose it to anybody. So he was not truthful. He did not tell what happened. He had a habit of stealing. He stole the pie. He stole the meat pie from the fridge. Or you could say that Pip was a lonely boy, even if he had many friends, because sometimes he felt very lonely and he went to the village churchyard to cry, and he was an orphan. He wasn't treated very well. You could write all these things based on your understanding, and this character sketch comes only for the main characters. And I'm like 99% sure that most of the school gives character sketch questions, at least in the higher classes. Okay, now the last question of the day. The text makes us feel both frightened of and sympathetic towards the convict. How does it do that? So I would advise you not to copy my stuff, because this is my understanding on the text. It's kind of a application based question. So I would advise you to just take an idea, make out an idea out of this question, and you can write your own notes. And I'll just quickly read it out to you. The convict was frightening as he looked mentally retarded. And just read the chapter twice and thrice before attempting any application based questions. Okay, before exam always read the chapter thrice, 4 times, 5 times. The convict was frightening as he looked mentally retarded. He would threaten Pip as any other convict would do. He did all the other activities like eating and wolfing down his food and cutting down his chains with lots of anger. He was jealous, or perhaps had some animosity with the other convict, as he was quite dangerous. All this was due to the harsh scenario and situation he was going through. Although at the end, he tries to repay Pip by giving or sending him money through other people, and also made sure that Pip would not get caught due to his crime. In short, he just wanted some help so that he could get some support without getting caught. Okay? So with this, I come to the end of the chapter Pip and the Convict. All the question answers are given out to you, and with the previous chapter 9 gold medals, question answers have been is out now. You can just see that. You can refer to it as well, right? You can see that, you can refer to that, and whatever doubts you have, don't forget to put it down in the comment section below, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. And if this is your first time attending my live classes, please do go and check my YouTube channel. Thank you so much, and this is me zooming out now. Bye, see you and have a lovely day. And yes, a Merry Christmas, a very big Merry Christmas to everybody. Enjoy your holidays.